So this time we're going way back to the beginning, like way, way back.
Right back to the roots of humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're talking about the origins of us, all starting with these amazing discoveries from a fossil site in South Africa.
Kromdraai, they call it the cradle of humankind.
Catchy, right. And, you sent me that documentary about paleoanthropologist Joseph Braga and his team's work at Kromdraai.
Oh, yeah. They're doing some really groundbreaking stuff.
Totally. I mean, it just blows my mind to think we're still learning so much about our earliest ancestors.
Well, that's the thing about paleoanthropology. There are still so many gaps in our knowledge. Like, we've known for a long time that humans originated in Africa.
Right, right.
But the actual fossil evidence for that crucial transition from, say, Australopithecus.
Like the famous Lucy fossil.
Exactly, Lucy. The transition from those early hominids to our genus, Homo, it's been surprisingly thin.
We're talking about that missing link everyone's always looking for.
That's it. That's what makes Braga's work so fascinating. He's finding things that are really starting to fill in those gaps, giving us a clearer picture of that murky period.
So he's finding the missing pieces.
In a way, yes. But it's not just what he's finding, it's how he's finding it. He's not just digging in the same old places, hoping for the best. He's using all this amazing technology.
Oh, yeah. The documentary talked about 3D mapping and stuff.
Right. 3D topography, chemical analysis, all of that to really pinpoint the best spots to look for fossils. And get this, his approach has revealed that the Kromdraai site, it's actually 5 times bigger than they initially thought.
5 times? That's wild. It's like finding a secret room in your house.
Exactly. And this room happens to be packed with clues about our ancient past.
A real gold mine for understanding where we come from. So what kinds of things are they finding in this expanded site?
Well, one of the most significant discoveries is a child's fossil. A jawbone, to be precise, dating back over 2 million years.
2 million years. Hold on, a child's fossil. Now that's not something you hear about every day. How rare are we talking?
It's incredibly rare to find any fossil that old, but to find one from a child, that's practically unheard of in paleoanthropology.
Wow, that's huge. So they found this incredibly rare 2 million-year-old child's fossil. What's next?
Well, now the really interesting part begins. Analyzing that fossil, it's like getting a message from the past.
A message from our ancestors. This is going to be good.
Yeah.
So it's not just about how rare this jawbone is, right?
Oh, no, not at all.
There's got to be something else, something about what it tells us about our evolution.
You're absolutely right. See, this little jawbone, it's like a snapshot in time.
Okay, I like that, a snapshot.
Yeah, because it has this really unique blend of features. Some are very primitive, similar to Australopithecus.
Lucy and her relatives.
Exactly. But then there are other features that are more modern, more like what we see in the Homo genus, our direct ancestors.
So it's a mix of old and new, like a transitional form.
Precisely. It's like catching evolution in the act, This jawbone captures that pivotal moment when our lineage was just starting to diverge from those earlier hominids.
Wow, that just sends chills down my spine. We're talking about millions of years ago.
Over 2 million, to be precise. Which, by the way, makes dating this fossil a bit tricky.
Right, you can't just carbon date a 2 million-year-old jawbone, can you?
Not quite. And unfortunately, there wasn't enough viable DNA for genetic dating either.
So how do they know how old it is?
They had to get creative. They used a technique called relative dating, which basically means looking at the age of everything else around the fossil.
Like the geological layers?
Exactly. It's all about context. They analyzed the sediment layers where the fossil was found.
So the deeper they dig, the older the stuff.
Pretty much. They also study other fossils found in the same layer.
Like those saber-toothed cats they found?
Yes, the Meganterion. Finding those alongside the jawbone, it's like getting bonus clues.
Helps paint a more complete picture of the time.
Absolutely. It tells us something about who else was living in that environment, what the climate might have been like, even what those early humans might have been eating.
Or what was eating them, knowing saber-toothed cats.
That's very likely. Early humans were both scavengers and prey, so they had to be pretty resourceful to survive.
Talk about a tough neighborhood. But I'm still curious about the dating. Layers, saber-toothed cats, what else did they use?
Oh, they found something else in that cave. Something that's like nature's own timekeeper, stalagmites.
Stalagmites. You mean those formations that grow up from the cave floor?
Those are the ones. They form over incredibly long periods, you see, as mineral-rich water drips from the ceiling.
Kind of like those really, really slow-growing icicles?
in a way. But the important thing is, stalagmites, just like tree rings, they form layers over time. And by analyzing those layers, their mineral composition.
You can actually tell how old they are.
Exactly. And by extension, how old the surrounding sediment and anything in it must be. And everything pointed to that jawbone being over 2 million years old.
Making it the oldest human child fossil ever found. I mean, that's just mind-blowing.
It really is. And it gets even more interesting when you consider the other hominid fossils they found at Kromdraai, Paranthropus.
All right. You mentioned them earlier. Are beside humans.
Right. I like that, beside humans. That's a good way to think about them.
Yep.
They lived alongside our Homo ancestors, but on a different branch of the family tree.
So not our direct ancestors, but kind of like our evolutionary cousins.
Exactly. And they look quite different, too. More robust, with these powerful jaws made for chewing tough plant matter.
So like the gorillas of their day.
A good analogy. But what makes Kromdraai so unique is that it's the only site we found that shows the transition from Australopithecus to both Paranthropus and Homo.
Wait, so it's like this evolutionary crossroads?
Precisely. A snapshot of this incredible divergence happening right before our eyes.
It's amazing to think that our ancestors were living alongside these other human-like species. And get this, while searching for clues about the differences between early human children and Paranthropus children, they stumbled upon another groundbreaking discovery.
I know, right? It's like the Earth just decided to give up one of its best-kept secrets. They found a baby Paranthropus skull.
A baby Paranthropus. Seriously.
The first one ever discovered.
So now they have a baby Homo ancestor and a baby Paranthropus, both from the same time period.
Both preserved perfectly in that cave for millions of years.
Talk about a lucky find. This is what makes studying our past so fascinating. You just never know what you're going to dig up.
You said it. And trust me, these baby fossils are full of surprises, but we'll get into that in a bit.
You've got me on the edge of my seat. Can't wait to hear what secrets these baby bones hold. Okay, spill the beans. What's so special about these baby fossils?
Well, they use some really advanced imaging techniques on these skulls.
Like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Almost. But anyway, they compared these ancient skulls to what we know about modern primate development and, get this,
I'm ready for it.
they found this really intriguing difference in the way early humans and Paranthropus raised their young.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Early humans, they had much longer childhoods than their Paranthropus counterparts.
Longer childhoods. Wouldn't that have been a disadvantage back then? Everything trying to eat you, you got to grow up fast, right?
You'd think so, right? But that's what's so fascinating about this discovery. It turns out longer childhoods might have been crucial to our evolution.
Okay, now you've got to explain this one.
Think about it this way. We see a similar pattern in modern primates. Gorillas, for example, they're weaned pretty early, right? Short childhoods.
Right.
Chimpanzees, on the other hand.
They seem to take their sweet time growing up.
They do. Longer nursing period, more time to learn and develop, and guess what? They're also much better at problem solving and tool use than gorillas.
Interesting. Are you saying there's a connection? Longer childhoods equal bigger brains?
That's the idea. It makes sense, doesn't it? The longer you have to learn from your parents and peers, the more time your brain has to develop, the more complex skills you can master.
That makes sense. But hold on, how can they tell how long these hominids nursed based on fossils? Don't you need, like, soft tissue for that?
You're right. Soft tissue from millions of years ago would be great, but it's incredibly rare to find that well-preserved.
So how'd they do it?
Teeth. They hold remarkable secrets.
Who knew teeth were so interesting?
You can actually tell what infant hominids were eating by analyzing the chemical composition of their teeth.
Wait, seriously, you can tell what someone ate millions of years ago just by looking at their teeth?
Yep. It's all about isotopes. When an infant transitions from mother's milk to solid food, the ratio of certain isotopes, like calcium, changes. And that change, it leaves a permanent mark, a kind of chemical signature in their teeth.
Wow, so it's like their teeth are these tiny time capsules.
Exactly. And what did the analysis of these tiny time capsules show?
Don't keep me in suspense, tell me.
It confirmed that Paranthropus babies were weaned much earlier than our Homo ancestors, meaning early human mothers were investing a lot more time and energy in raising their young.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just bigger brains here. We're talking about a completely different social structure, right?
Right. More support, more learning, more cooperation. All of that takes time, and that's what those longer childhoods provided.
So instead of just trying to survive, our Homo ancestors were busy teaching and learning and developing more complex social structures.
Exactly. It's a very different picture of early human life than we've imagined. And it leads to a fascinating question. What if this extended childhood, this focus on raising the next generation, is truly what sets us apart?
You mean it's not just our big brains, but how we use those brains to care for our young that makes us human?
Precisely. And if that's true, if that nurturing, that extended learning period is really at the core of what makes us human, it makes you wonder, how might our world be different if we, like our Homo ancestors, prioritize that? Food for thought, right?
Definitely. It makes you appreciate those long childhoods, both for our ancestors millions of years ago and for us today. Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through time. It's amazing how these little fossils can reveal so much about who we are and where we come from. Until next time.